Great. Well, welcome to Eighth House Wisdom's annual Stellar Planning Workshop. We're going to focus on stellar planning for 2023 and how you can triple your New Year manifestations with astrology. Just as the card pull that I had spoke about, this published card that indicates sharing this message and getting it out to touch people's lives. Thousands of years ago, only the elitist people were able to use astrology, but it is such an effective tool practically for understanding time and energy and the feel around us. And so I'm really excited to be able to focus on this. This is my third year doing this free workshop, as well as putting out the Stellar Year Blueprint, because I want to be able to support people in utilizing astrology and applying it in their lives in ways that work. So let's see. All righty, I'm here. Let's see. Oh, see, it was a little slow. There we go. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. What we're going to be covering today is a little bit about my background, why stellar planning, what it is, why it's amazing. I'm going to give a brief overview of the astrology of 2023. We'll talking about the retrogrades, working with the new moons and full moons and eclipses, how to work with planetary days. And that will be the end of the actual stellar planning presentation. And then after that, I'm going to talk about a few ways that it's possible for you to work with me if you would like the support of an astrologer or some astrological tools. If you feel like you need to leave at that point, please do not hesitate. This is my gift and my offering to you all during this holiday season. So, about me. So I'm Melissa Brisbane, also known as Melissa of Eighth House Wisdom. I'm a professional astrologer and trained coach here at Eighth House Wisdom. I'm also the instructor at thewisdombeacon.com, where I do most of my astrological classes. I'm a trained psychotherapist and integrative health and lifestyle coach. And I also work with people in that way at Wisdom Integrative Wellness. I love planning and time conventions. I'm not a neurotypical person. I have ADHD. And so I really enjoy being able to help people. I'm also an intuitive and a psychic. So I really help people kind of put sensitive energies together and work with time. That's how I became a stellar planning expert. Most of the books and things that I've written have been about astrology, and not just for the fun of it, but how do you take these concepts and apply them to your life to make living life easier. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I also work in the beauty space, and I have a book that blends astrology and self-care, focused on the moon and lunar wisdom and how to get your hair cut and colored and all of those things by the moon, because the moon actually has an impact on them. So that's what sets me up to be able to lead us through this kind of information. But while you're here, is I want us to focus on stellar planning. We're coming to the end of a calendar year, but calendar years are not, they don't follow the energy. They don't follow the energy that we feel. Stellar planning is a process that hopefully gets you to tune into the feel, the energetic container of what's going on, so that you can apply that to plan your year, your month, your week, and your day. Because our calendar is an agreed upon convention of time, but it doesn't necessarily work with natural and universal cycles. Hence, seeing how astrological signs usually change over in the middle of each month, right? Versus on the monthly, though they are 30 days long, they switch over in the middle of most months. And so, stellar planning really does allow you to create greater ease and flow in scheduling your life events, because we're not just going, okay, I need to go to the bank on Tuesday. We're also really checking in with how we're going to feel in our body, how the energy around us is going to feel. And we're making informed decisions about how we want to plan based on what feels best at a given time. That, to me, I have found is the secret to happiness and feeling good, because most of us are highly productive and we can get a lot done, right? But if you've ever had the experience of reaching the end of a goal only to find the feeling lackluster and being like, this is it. I mean, I got my trophy, I got my award, but it doesn't feel the way I want it to feel. That's oftentimes because we're just straight up going at it from a do this at this time, and we're not paying attention to everything else around us. The more that we can work seamlessly together with that, the better our lives feel. And you can stellar plan just with the stellar blueprint, because that gives us an understanding of the energetic container for the year. But it's even more powerful when you know your birth chart. And when we look at what's happening with time in general, with what's happening with your natural sense of timing. So that's what the stellar planning process is really all about. And so to jump into the good, juicy parts, the astrology of 2022 and 2023. In 2022, in 2022, Jupiter dominated the astrology of the year. But this coming year, that should say, the Jupiter, the great expander, Pluto, the transformer, and Neptune, kind of the behind the scenes confuser, but we'll say the psychic, spiritual sense, are going to really set up the energy for most of us. And these planets that we're talking about, they're outer planets in our solar systems. So we have personal planets, and those are the sun, ourself, the moon, our mood, Mercury, how we communicate, Mars, our energy and drive, Venus, how we love and make money. But once we move out to the outer planets, Jupiter, expansion, Saturn, limits, Pluto and Neptune, transformation and spiritual beliefs, those are the planets that directly impact everyone, because they have a collective influence. So Jupiter moved through the signs of Pisces and Aries, which was kind of introducing a bit more luck and expansion into our subconscious minds, which is Pisces, and our bodies and sense of self. That's what Aries rules, right? Coming up this year, though, we are also looking at a big shift as it relates to some of our digital media rulers, Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those social things that have become even more important to us during this transition out of the pandemic. They were given lots of grace, I think, in our society, even as we've been acknowledging some of the things that aren't so great about them, primarily because the planet that rules boundaries, Saturn and convention, was in the sign of technology and innovation, Aquarius. But it's going to be moving in 2023 into into Pisces, which may not provide them with the same kind of free reign that they have had over the past almost 2.5 to 3 years. Also, with Saturn, which is very traditional and very strong in masculine or boundary energy, with it returning to Pisces, which has a strong connection to religion, we may see some more archaic or religious, strongly religiously based beliefs coming back into play in our collective space around rulings, around legal systems. As I'm speaking about here, potential concerns about human rights and things being rolled back. That can be a shift as we see Saturn move into Pisces. Previously, we've been able to kind of like, put our head in the sand and not pay attention to this or come up with excuses for it. But the energy that we're going to move into is going to bring that pretty pronounced. Some of us will suffer from our beliefs. Others of us will speak up, right? We need to be aware as well of the mix between Aquarius innervation and Pisces kinds of reality bending and religious pieces, because it could bring even a larger resurgence of like fringe organizations or kind of tyrannical leaders who seem to be promoting the next new innovative concept, but that really doesn't feel good to us. On the flip side, when it comes to Mother Earth, we do, with Saturn moving into Pisces, a water sign, we have opportunities to work on water conservation, something near and dear to my heart. We could really make some great breakthroughs in the next 3 years, because that's how long Saturn will be in Pisces, with 2.5, almost 3 years, with cleaning water conservation, utilizing water as power if we put our minds to it. It's totally possible if Saturn spending 2.5, 3 years in Aquarius has people being able to pay millions or billions of dollars, but nonetheless, you can buy a ticket to go to space now. So there isn't any real reason why, if you can buy a ticket to go into the exosphere right now, then we should be able to come up with something that helps us to clean our water and utilize the natural resources that we have down here on the planet we want to keep living on. So that's part of my hope, and part of my predictions energetically for what's coming up. Some things we're really going to need to also ask ourselves about the astrology for 2023 is, what role will the metaverse and kind of growing virtual reality capacity play in our current existence? What current things and conditions will it replace? We're already seeing that play out with forms of digital currency and cryptocurrency. Another thing to really focus on is the fact that Saturn has previously in history involved advancements in medicine, potential new vaccine or other advancements as we've been dealing with this, global virus and other pieces. There could be some new medical behind the scenes innovations coming up with Saturn in Pisces that we could all benefit from. And so those are some of the high level pieces of the energetic container for 2023. I think the real thing for us to focus on is that there are going to be themes of innovation versus structure, and how will they play out in this continued unfolding of more technology and a resurgence of spirituality in this emerging new world order. I mean, that's going to be the feel in the zeitgeist or in the collective unconscious when we're tapping in and watching the news or paying attention to things. That's going to be kind of what we're experiencing. And so here I've gone through and listed, and this is in the stellar year blueprint, as well as your worksheet. I've listed the major aspects of 2023 because we really want to be focusing on a few particular, and I'm going to say Saturn into Pisces on March 7th, Pluto making its entry into Aquarius. Pluto has been in Capricorn for 12, almost 13 years. Pluto is one of the slowest moving planets. It's the furthest outer. So this shift is going to, and it will initially only run through about June, and I will check the exact day, but because it'll do a quick retrograde in 2023. But the energetic shift from Pluto in Capricorn to Aquarius is going to set forth a new epoch, right? That's going to be a new 12-year cycle. We're going to have Saturn and Pluto moving within 2 weeks of each other in March. So expect for energies to really start bubbling up and feeling a sense of renewal around there. And I think that's the way the nature intends for it to be, because astrological New Year is right in the middle of that, March 21st, right? Technically, for me, when spring starts, that's really when the new year has begun. That's energetically where even a lot of the astrological cycles that happened in 2022, that's when they will close out, including our eclipse cycle from now. So March, though, in between that period, March 7th and through March 23rd, that's a really big period to look for. And additionally, May 16th, when Jupiter, the expander planet, moves in to the second house or the sign of Taurus, where we will become more sensualist. We'll be focused more on food and drink and beauty and Venusian things, since Taurus is a Venus ruled sign. We're also going to be focused on coin and finances and building things. The archetype of Taurus is the builder. It wants to build, it wants to create, it wants to make things that are stable and feel good. And Jupiter is an expander, right? So the energy of the expander planet moving into our areas of finance mean that everybody has financial lows at some point of the year. That's one of the particular periods of time you really want to focus on them, because the natural energetic container is going to support that. The same way when Pluto moves into Aquarius, if you've been thinking about, as long as there's not too many things in retrograde, if you've been thinking about updating technology of any kind, and not only electronic technology, an egg beater was a technology because you didn't have to use it for it. If you're thinking about upgrading or transforming the technology that you use in your life, starting March 23rd, you'll get clearer instincts and clearer downloads about that. As well as with Saturn, which is essentially limitations and structure, but also dreams and working behind the scenes in spirituality, you may be opening up and experiencing more downloads of how to make your dreams realistic, how to build something you've been imagining for an extended period of time. These times are going to happen earlier in the year because there are other aspects and other parts of what happens astrologically that we'll need to pay attention to. And so, as I was saying, these three outer planets are going to be setting up new long-term cycles for 18 months to almost 20 years with how they're going to move. So again, Jupiter's expansion, Saturn's structure, and Pluto's transformation. We will continue to see money transform because Uranus, the planet of innovation, is also in the sign of money and personal finance. So we'll continue to see that move ahead, and there will be a continued focus on your inner world, your subconscious, your imagination, and doing self-improvement with Jupiter and Saturn having touched into Pisces, and in particular, looking at where those planets are in your chart. That'll give you insight into this. As for anyone who's watching the workshop right now, there will be a link either in the description below or in the chat for you to grab a copy of the worksheet for download. Okay, hopefully, and it's up at the top of the chat if you're in session now. The best way for us to kind of work with this energy in particular is to really think about working with 3 goals related to those major planetary shifts. So thinking about a goal around expansion, a goal around creating structure, a goal around creating transformation. And in particular, looking at your chart and where those planets are in your chart will probably give you the best idea about how to set up a goal that allows you to go with the flow versus setting up the goal, I want to do this and I want to expand here. Well, energetically, is that what's being highlighted in your chart? Because you'll set the goal and then you'll find out that the expansion will happen probably exactly where it's indicated in your chart. That's just how, that's, I think, the beauty of astrology and how it generally works. So also, we're going to be experiencing a lot more revealing of secrets and behind the scenes structures, because we'll be having the final Taurus and Scorpio eclipses in 2023. They'll be ending, that cycle will be ending in the spring. What will be coming up will also be the shift of the lunar nodes mid-year, right around that time, into Aries and Libra. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in when I talk about working with the moon. But again, as you can see, spring is really going to be the start of new energetic cycles in 2023, because the calendar year and the astrological year don't line up. And we actually are going to be ending this year in Mercury retrograde, with Uranus in retrograde, and Mars in retrograde. We're going to have to wait until some of those energies resolved, all of which started in 2022, until we really kick into the new dominant energy signature for the next year. So this, this gives us an opportunity to, that must be really work with things. Okay, there we go. I was like, what's happening? So in your worksheet, what you probably should see right now are some of these questions. If you don't have your own chart, you can head over to my website and get a free copy of your chart. It will not have a report, but it will give you that circle wheel, and it'll give you all the little symbols that show up, and it will let you know what part of your chart is ruled by which of these signs. So in order for you to apply stellar planning initially, you're going to want to know what house, and houses for are just slices of life. We have 12 slices of life. They rule and govern the processes. Part of it is behind me there, but they rule and govern the processes of life. When Taurus is technically the 2nd house of personal finance, Capricorn is the 10th house of career and public face. 11th house is Aquarius, hopes and wishes, where we see our business gains, our friends. And Pisces is the subconscious and our dream space. Now that's traditional if you are an Aries, if you have an Aries rising and are an Aries, and you can work from the traditional zodiac. However, if you're Gemini rising like me, that shifts everything around. But identifying these areas in your chart are going to let you know more specifics and drill down even further, so that you'll be able to understand, if Jupiter is going to be in Taurus, right? Jupiter in Taurus means it's going to be in my 12th house of the subconscious. So my psychic activity is likely to pick up really big this year. I'm probably able to better subconsciously manifest or call in money, right? I now know exactly where that's going to show up in my chart because no one has the same chart. Even twins who are born at the same time, they split their charts in half, right? So if you want to know things more than when I'm tapping into my psychic abilities, astrology has the ability to tell us timing, super specific timing of when things will occur. And we all want to know when things are going to happen so we can be prepared. So these questions are also helpful too. Finding again where, not only where those chart areas, where those signs are in your chart, but finding out where where Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are in your chart. They may not be in the sign that they're in right now, or they could be. Also identifying degree points in your chart. That's what the circle information will give you. Because things will be getting at these degrees, 7 degrees and 14 degrees Taurus, and 0 degrees in any house or any sign. They're going to be highly activated. If you have planets or things of that nature, you're going to be feeling it. I have a 0-degree sun. So even though I'm a Scorpio sun, and we talked about Taurus and Capricorn and Pisces and Aquarius being activated, because by degree, I will be the same as some of these planetary extras. I need to pay more attention to that. And I need to know that that may show up as energetic shift or contrast for me. That gives me better understanding of how I want to plan, right? You want to ask yourself, and you can write down what houses are involved in any of these planetary movements that I've talked about. So you know what the themes are, right? You'll know, okay, they're gonna be activating my subconscious, my communication, my body, and my relationships, right? That's starting to give you the energetic container for the year, right? You need that, in my opinion, in order to really plan and feel good, because otherwise you will have planned and you'll be successful, but it won't feel the way that you do. And if once you download all this information, you want to take a look at this and ask what aspects of expansion and transformation mean for you, so that as you start projecting what you want for the new calendar year, you're not doing that from just a random space. You're doing it from an informed place of what the energy is and what's going to help. That's pretty much what I'm saying here. Stuff could feel like fantasy because we have a lot of subconscious energy rolling in 2023. You may not have had everything that you hoped for in 2022 work out, but there is greater promise for future growth and change, right? The best ways to do that are to continue to work with the themes that I'm speaking about, and to remember that everything's going to be about that balancing what's real and what's fantasy. And with Saturn, the thing that rules traditional things in the sign of the subconscious and imagination, that's going to be a total push and pull. Many of us are going to be questioning whether the dreams that we have can really exist. And the answer is, sure they can. How much are you willing to invest in them? Everything is created twice, first in our mind and then in reality. So anything that you can think of can be created. It's really about how much energy you want to promote or seed to that. Really make sure that you pay attention this year to not judging yourself, thinking about a plan for expanding your finances as we see financial markets and money change. By 2025, I expect to see so much more around digital currency and money changing, right? Go with the energy or get dragged. I'm going to go with the energy. That's the same thing for other technology across the board. We're going to continue to see technological innovation. Take what you can, work with what feels good. Try to be open in the shift related to that. Being flexible and being faithful are going to be your best tools in navigating this upcoming year. And so here are the other pieces. That's the major piece. Those are the major pieces of the astrology for the year. And it would look like stuff is kind of dying off by January, but that's because this part is going to pick up on some of the rest of the activity. So many people nowadays know about what a retrograde is because of Mercury retrograde. But a retrograde is really when a planet appears to be turned backwards in the sky. And you can see in this diagram, kind of looks like a Z. All planets, excluding the sun and the moon, because they're not planets, they're really luminaries, go retrograde from time to time. And they go retrograde at different times. And when a planet goes retrograde, the opposite oftentimes of what it focuses on comes up. So Venus is the planet of like attracting and getting money, but in retrograde, it's about thinking internal processes, and maybe you're figuring out what you need to do to update the ways in which you go after that. Every year we have a retrograde season. That is when so many planets or multiple planets go into retrograde at the same time. And so we have this energetic effect that says, look inward and pay attention to yourself. That time varies from year to year. 2022, 7 months of retrograde. We're still dealing with, we are now, as I said, Uranus is still in retrograde. It went retrograde all in mid-August. Mars went retrograde October 30th, and Mercury will be going retrograde December 29th to usher us into 2023. We're out of what we call retrograde season, but literally last year, from early June to right now, we have had planets moving backwards. 2023 is going to be very similar in terms of length of time. It's almost 7 months again, but it'll be pushed up a little. So starting late April with the second Mercury retrograde, moving pretty much until about November, when we get to maybe only 2 planets in retrograde. That's going to be retrograde season, which means that essentially coming out of the summer, this follows universal cycles, coming out of the summer, moving into fall and winter is when we're going to be asked to turn our energy inward. And instead of trying to start new things, we're going to be asked to look at what we already have in play and how we will review those and make them better. This is a lineup, which is in the stellar year blueprint, of all of the planetary retrograde periods for 2023. Venus and Mars do not usually go retrograde, quote unquote, in the same year, not annual year. So Mars will be ending its retrograde the 12th of January, where most of it happened in 2022. So we had a Mars retrograde in 2022. We will have a Venus retrograde coming up this year. Mercury goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year without fail. Use it as a quarterly review. Check in and do the things that help you make sure you don't sign paperwork or have to redo things. This chart is super useful in understanding what it means when a planet goes retrograde, what the energy is best for, because we can't stop our lives because things are moving backwards. We just have to understand how to work with the flow of energy to best get where we want to go. It also is going to give you an indication of where what sign it's retrograding and where the degree is, so that you can check your chart and see if you have any planets or anything lined up there. If you do, then you know that this is going to be even more impactful for you than the average person. Most of us feel Mercury retrogrades because it's a personal planet. It affects how we speak. We feel a Venus retrograde because it affects our money. You're probably feeling Mars retrograde right now because it makes us more anxious. And Mars is retrograde in Gemini. So things about neighbors, around siblings, around communication, around media, or whatever area in your chart Gemini is ruling, you're going to be it's going to be impacted in that way. But this will help you to be able to understand the energy for the second half, pretty much, late April into the end of the year. And you'll be able to come back again and again to use this. The next piece is the lunar cycles, right? Because this is a layering. There's always something going on in the sky. So this is the practice that I work with the most. Lunar energy, the sun is the masculine, the moon is the feminine. It's the feminine energy in the zodiac. When we talk the moon, we're talking the Earth's moon, our only satellite. So as the moon waxes, it's growing. We want to work with setting intentions and manifesting while the moon is growing from new to full. When it wanes and it's going from full back to dark, we want to release and let go so the magic or our intention can do its work. When we think about the major astrology, that's for the whole 12 months. Retrograde season is talking about a slice of pie for our year. The lunar cycle here, is what's helping us get down to a monthly level. Lunar cycles are 28 to 29.5 days. Within a lunar cycle, you're going to have a new moon. Then 2 weeks later, you're going to have a full moon. You've got a first quarter moon and a last quarter moon in between. So that pretty much creates 4 weeks and can give us a really clear understanding of what the energy will feel like. The moon is the most important planet to pay attention to if you want to know how your day is going to feel or what's going on. When I get up in the morning, I usually am checking to see where the moon is. We just came off of a Virgo workhorse moon. That was the first quarter moon, and are moving into a Leo moon. So I went from focusing on timing and details, all this we're talking about is definitely Virgo, into showing it to people and sharing it, which is also very Leonian. So, and that's how the energy feels, right? If you want to know how things feel, you need to check in with that. And it's also the reason why the feel of a day changes, because the moon changes signs every 2 days. So you have to check in because you need to be able to know when the energy is shifted and, oh, I want this now, and oh, I want to feel this way now. And so planning with the lunar cycles is pretty much just doing what I talked about, understanding where the new and the full moon are, using a circle guide like this, which pretty much defines where every house is in this image on the screen, and going, oh, okay, that was the 6th house of work and service and health and self-improvement I just had a moon in. So the energy will feel like that for the next 2 weeks. That'll be the dominant theme. And then when I have the next moon 2 weeks from now, it'll be in my subconscious life, my spiritual life, not my daily life, right? That gives you pretty much a chapter by monthly chapter theme for what will be showing up. Less confusion, less I didn't expect this to happen, and more understanding, because those are the missing pieces when we're planning where we want to go, what we want to do, and how we want this stuff to show up. We really need to know what the feel of things are. This can help you set 2-week short-term goals and give you a natural built-in opportunity to check on that and make adjustments moving ahead. The eclipses are also important to deal with because eclipses are solar and moon pieces. As I said at the top of this, we are actually in what's called a crossover season. So 2021 to 2023, we had a Taurus security and Scorpio secure kind of eclipse axis. And the lunar nodes are going to be changing mid-year, and we're going to start a new cycle that will run from 2023 to 2025 that will focus on eclipses in Aries and Libra, which is our internal drive and our sense of order. We're going to be moving from fixed energy, which is the managerial energy, the people that organize and hold everything up, to a cardinal energy, in essence, which brings initiatory energy. They start things. They're the social people. They inspire others. They're not the finishers, but they are the trendsetters. That's why they're referred to as influencers. So we're going to see a market shift again. Note that between March and May, so to speak, that's when the energies for this new year astrologically are going to be kicking in. That will also be the last, around the time where we're having our last Taurus and Scorpio eclipses, and the moon nodes will change. So you'll really start to feel something different. Eclipses also work in 8-year cycles. So we had an eclipse actually the day after my birthday on October 25th, and then we had one on November 8th, right? Those energies will be closing out. The October 25th energy will be closing out on May 5th, right? That's a 6-month cycle for that May 5th penumbral lunar eclipse. And the November 8th lunar eclipse will be closing out on the 28th of October. So these are the things that we have to take a look at, and that'll be even longer in terms of signatures, but energy kind of leapfrogs throughout the year. And we also need to recognize that while we work with a physical calendar, there are other energy signatures that move in between this. And so this can help you be less confused when something shows up from the past and you're like, well, where did this come from? Eclipses are full moons and new moons on steroids. They have a longer signature, bare minimum 6 months, as long as up to 8 years. So these are also important dates to focus on. And again, just like I said, these are coming out of the spring and moving into the fall, where we are going to need to know more. So an example of how to apply what I just said, applying what I just said to your chart. This is my chart here. We're going to have a new moon on December 23rd at 2 degrees Capricorn. So in my chart, it's here, this 8th house area of transformation, mysteries, other people's money, death, sex, and rebirth. So I already know I could potentially, around inheritance, around community money, all of those things, I could have some things happen. Capricorn is also related to my public reputation, my highest potential, and the father, right? This is actually, and it's a new moon. So new moons are about starting things. So this new moon in Capricorn is a great time. Also, because Capricorn is about career, it's a great time to start things related to my career endeavors that represent mysteries and transforming other people. Good thing I'm already in that business. But I also highly encourage anyone. That is probably one of the best lunations that we will have for you to come up with career-based goals, just because of the strong Capricorn energy, and Mercury will also be there. So our thinking as well as our ego will be really in a space of creating substance and career. And earth signs are about the physical manifestation of things, right? Water is about the spiritual, but Earth is physical element. So coming up with and setting an intention, making moves to start with this new moon, not only will that be effective for 2 weeks and taking us into the new year, but it will be a signature that picks up right around the time that we move into spring. And so it's like having planted a seed during the winter, and then, as we're moving into summer, not spring, around June 21st, once we move into Cancer season, it's up 6 months later, you may really start to see fruits of that labor, because after that point, we'll have a full moon in Capricorn. So this is how you work with the moon. Figure out what the moon sign is, figure out the house, figure out what you want to set for yourself, and go from there. The last piece to work with that takes us down to the daily level are planetary days. English has lost a lot of its connection to Romance language, but in any Romance language, you can still hear the names of the planets in the names of the day. If you use planetary wisdom about the day, the feeling of each day can improve for you. Monday is a moon day, so it's a slow start day. Tuesday is a Mars day. It's about taking action and being brave. It's when you want to get things going. Wednesday is a Mercury day. It's for communicating, social media, doing contracts, doing short or long distance travel. Thursday is also a day, is a Jupiter day. It's a day for long distance travel, but also expanding and learning. Friday is Venus's day, right? It's a day for focusing on beauty, pleasure, creativity, and also getting money, attracting and making money. Saturday is Saturn's day. It's actually the day that is better favored to plan, to do chores, to organize and get things together. This day, Sunday, is actually a day for self. It should be the day of rest, the day you focus on self-care and doing things just for you. As somebody who works for themselves, I have used this process and I use it all the time, but my work week is assigned to this. I don't work on Mondays because I'm an intuitive and I feel a need to have a slow start. I always feel resentful when I have to go fast on a Monday, but I don't feel that way on Tuesday. So because I have that flexibility, I've been able to shift. Not everybody does in their work life, but you do in other aspects of your life. So when you take all of these things that I just talked about, and put them together, it's the application. It's applied astrology, right? We're going to look at the high level container of what's happening in those big outer planets that affects everybody. We're going to then take a look at those retrogrades and see where we're going to need to be internally focused. We're going to look at the moon, knowing that that's really the nitty gritty of what you want to focus on. It's going to give you your monthly energy and help you drill down every 2-week period. So you know what the container is, down to every 2-day period for you as you check the moon moving signs. And then you add the planetary days piece. And so now I know what the big idea is. I know when I need to be internal. I know what area I want to focus on. And now I'm planning out my week. And so I know I want to get these things done. Now we can think about fitting in the things that we want to do according to the natural cycle versus working against it. Because when we do, that's what ends up feeling best for us. That is actually the definition of success. Whether you have $1 million or not, I've met plenty of people who have lots of money and that doesn't make them happy. Really successfully getting to feel the way that you want to feel is a surefire bet to happiness. And the way that you do that is not only just plan in your calendar according to days, but plan according to how you want to feel. So it goes from reading my horoscope every day to figure out what's happening to going, oh, I know what's going to happen and I've got a general idea and I can rinse and repeat. That is how you stellar plan. And that will be, especially keeping with the themes of this year, tripling your manifestations. We have the ability this year to structure, expand, and transform our worlds with the power of Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto. If we can come up with those ideas and work within that container, we can really triple our manifestations in 2023, and we can feel a lot lighter and easier for it because we're going to be working with the energy. So we're going to be going with the flow instead of getting dragged. That, to everybody, is, and almost perfect timing, that is the end of my stellar planning process for 2023. And I thank you guys so much for being here and being in attendance. And if you are here, that means that you not only got a copy of this worksheet for your manifestations, but you're getting an early copy of the actual stellar year blueprint, which is about 30 pages or so, but it's filled with any specific details that you're looking for across all of these things. You're going to get the dates again for all of the major aspects. You're going to get the information about where all the retrogrades are happening. You have the table that lets you know where all the new and full moons for the year are happening, and a chart that helps you take a look and go through and start writing down what area or what house will be activated. And that should really give you an excellent jump at being able to apply the stellar year blueprint in 2023 and to maximize and triple your new year manifestations with the power of astrology. So I'm going to stop